Hello, universe. We're back. This is Pickathon Podcast, Episode 3. I'm your host, Zale Schoenborn. I'm the founder of the Pickathon Music Festival, and this podcast is where we try to fall in love each episode all over again with cool things, cool people, discover music, basically, mostly. Um, Today, we're going to be talking a little bit. I think we haven't really talked about the Pickathon kind of origin story a little bit. So just going to touch on that because we're early in doing a podcast. It's probably pretty relevant. And then we're going to kind of bring up an awesome band. Isabel Dammann is going to be here from Sprig of That. And we're going to just have some discussions about what Midwest raised globally inspired acoustic stew is. So that's going to be the gist of this one. So we'll just jump in. When we've been talking about the Pickathon podcast, we've been talking a lot about trying to be authentic and thinking like, okay, we don't want to just make stuff up and but we have a real focus at Pickathon. We've been discovering kind of and hardcore into the essence of music genres since we started. So if you go way back, we started in 99, and back then we called ourselves an indie roots festival, but we were just friends. I was in a band, a lot of people that we knew, Foghorn String Band, good friends of ours, and just the Freak Mountain Ramblers, the original, not the Holy Modal Rounders actually were still around back then. Part of the turned into the Freak Mountain Ramblers, Little Sue, Lynn Conover. It was a pretty awesome music scene. The Dickel brothers here in Portland back then. Old time was kind of like a big deal. And we just wanted to throw a kind of a party, like a better party, and with our friends, and not be kind of held down to one style of music. That was like the thought. Like this shouldn't be, because we all listen to all kinds of styles of music. So we mixed it up with everybody we could get, Irish, and then it was pretty roots oriented because we didn't have a lot of connections to like the rock and the big rock scene or rap or jazz or metal or electronic. That was to come later. But in those early days, we started this festival just with friends, family, work people, calm them into like, hey, it's going to be fun. And when we just go build stuff and we fed everyone potluck. And so that's like that original version of Pickathon kind of was also a benefit for KBOO. It was like, we really wanted to focus on that. And that, kind of had some real moments in itself. We had Kelly Jo Phelps early in second time. Holy Modal Rounders was one of their last performances. That was incredible. Poe Girls was kind of a really important moment for us in that kind of getting more national music to come pay attention to us. But we were really small. We were in this couple hundred people. That's all we had. And we did this out at Horning's Hideout, which is a venue. It's not where we're at today. We're at Pendarvis Farm out in North Plains. And that went on for 6 years. And what we learned there is just how to kind of make this party better, how to get more music. But what we also learned is our style of music is going to be this type of festival where we mix up the styles is going to be not a big commercial success. We knew that early. Well, we had a lot of fun doing it. That style of mixing up things was not what genre people wanted to listen to. So if you had a bluegrass festival or a blues festival or a rock festival, that's how people were programmed to go to these things early on. And when you try to mix them up into one festival, you were not pure enough for anyone. And that caused a lot of anti-growth, let's just say. And people came because they came with their friends and they thought it was cool. So they brought more people. And we've always grown this kind of organically, which has made a kind of very resilient community who's into hearing lots of different styles. And that was cool. And so kind of fast forward in this first segment of Pickathon, we got to year 6, and somewhere in the middle of the spring, we're told, oh, hey, by Bob Horning, he's an awesome gentleman. At this time, he was just trying to get his venue to be legit. Neighbors were complaining, things were happening, and he had to pick 2 festivals. We were tiny, String Cheese and the String Summit. not related, believe it or not. The String Cheese Incident Festival, which everyone knows, hopefully knows String Cheese. They were huge at the time. They were giant. They were a 5,000 person festival, and so is String Summit. Bye bye Pickathon. You're too small. You can't be here because I can only have two. So we scrambled hard and we found another place. And I'm wondering how many people had been to Hornings. Because then we moved to this one year, we moved to a place called Pudding River in Woodburn, which I don't remember how we found it. I just remember it was like scramble. Farmer said, yeah, you can use my field. And we're like, great. Okay. We kind of went down there, and then all of a sudden this was the big kind of moment for Pickathon where we started to grow up as a festival. There was nothing there. There was a field, no electricity, no water, no shade, no nothing. We had to like literally figure out how to build a small city. There was a kind of a wild little Pudding River kind of on the border that was nice. But we pulled it off. It was a cool festival. And it was like the first year we also weren't a benefit for KBOO. We became too big and had the hard talk that said, guys, I'm sorry. If you fail, you're going to take KBOO down. So you can't be a benefit for us anymore. We can't do it. And we can't front any kind of like helping you guys do this. So we decided that we're going to keep the dream alive, keep the party going. And a lot of things happened at Pudding River. We had the Hacienda Brothers and Be Good Tanya's and Jolie Holland. And it was just an incredible year for us. We ran over from, it was supposed to end at like 10 and it went to like 2 in the morning because we were just super up behind schedule. All kinds of things went wrong, but all kinds of things went right too. So first year we met Guildworks, Mar Ricketts, and kind of started when we bringing in setting up. At those times it was shade cloth that we got on rolls from on a train. A train delivered literally the biggest rolls for shade cloth that we could get. And then we went out and bought, 50 sewer pipes, like 20 foot tall. And we hemmed all the shade cloth and we put grommets on it. And on Thursday before the festival, it was only Friday, Saturday, Sunday back then, we literally set up all this shade and kind of made the stages and did everything. And it was kind of cool. Like that's how small Pickathon was. We could still do most of that, make it happen. And our community was growing. It was really kind of turned into this amazing, cool thing. And we only had a year there because almost the exact same story. We brought another festival with us to Pudding River, the Reggae Festival. And because they were out of a spot at Hornings too. They were too small. And after that first year, this farm owner out in Pudding River also had kind of a Hatfield and McCoy thing going on with his neighbors, where his neighbors were like trying to take him down. I think it was like a lifelong blood feud, and we got mixed up in this thing. And before we knew it, there was one festival that could remain the next year, and we were not that. So we were out yet again. And it was this crazy like moment where it felt really down. We worked really hard. It's a story that we'll tell all the time in podcast, is kind of resilient community, how we got there. But long story short, I went to a wedding out at Pendarvis Farm for a friend. And it was in the very front section out by the barns. If everyone knows, in the part we used for the day lot, we were parking there and actually using that for part of the wedding. It was awesome. It was lovely. I met Scott and Sherry, Pendarvis. They had like parties all the time there. That was like 20 people. Like it was just these cool like farm jams. She was riding around on a horse. It felt very bohemian. And right then we started talking, well, would you want to have a festival? We don't have a home. And that's how kind of Pendarvis Farm and Pickathon kind of started. And when we went to the back part of that barn, I wish we had pictures. It was 10 foot tall blackberries rolling 4-inch thick that dominated most of the field. Not so much the first field, but the field by the tree, where the tree line stage is. It was crazy. There was barely any trails. And so Pendarvis Farm, in its current state, people are really used to a very refined experience. It's like Big Rock Candy Mountain, as we like to say. And that's not how it started. Like we struggled, brought those sewer pipes, set up these shade, kind of got fancier and fancier over the years. And our community kept growing. We kept having mistakes every year. I always tell an awesome story about Danny Barnes kind of walking up to me backstage. He was in this band called the Bad Livers, and hopefully everyone knows the Bad Livers. If you don't, go check them out. And I was like walking around, and Danny came up to me and he's like, Zale, he's like, who's in charge here? I was like, it's just relax. You can ask anyone. It's a party. And he's like, nope, Zale, who's in charge? And I was like, he's like, you got to have somebody back here. There's artists. They got to eat. We don't know what's going on. I'm like, well, we'll figure it out. And then, basically it was like, no. And so like over the years, all the amateur stuff, all the kind of things that we needed to do to kind of make it more interesting and refined and kind of not have these mistakes, we survived them. We had people early on in Pickathon trying to camp on hillside. They wouldn't walk any further than 100 foot back. So you got like 1,000 people that would that would camp within 100 yards of the woods, even though there was a half mile back there. They just didn't know. They'd walk back, set up on a side of a hill, attach a rope to their tent so they didn't fall out. And then we'd hear about it. We're like, that was the crappiest camping I've ever had in my life. And we're like, okay, well, we need to build the camp host. And the camp host, if you don't know what that is this response we had where we had brought in like a front desk. You show up, they help you settle yourself, get you into the woods. It's like a nice experience. All that said there's just many, many stories. Hopefully we'll tell more of them. But Pickathon started in 2006 in Pendarvis Farm. And slowly over the years, it depends on how many times you've seen it kind of grow up. We look very organized and very professional and kind of are considered one of the kind of top festivals now. But it took forever to get there. And, what a part of this podcast, what we're going to be exploring is not just this past and this present, but there's a lot of stuff happening for the future too. And the continuous improvement that we have every year just to like make all the things that were small better, and all the things that we loved that were good even better, like just constantly trying to push ourselves. That's just who we are. And we're super into like 2023 being the second year of this new layout of the festival where we're using the land and the time of day. And you're going to see humongous jump. It's going to be like that Pickathon 2006 to 2007 or 10 to 11. Like all those were like huge years. You came in one, you're like, that was pretty good. You came the next year, you're like, wow, they really figured a lot more out. And I'm really excited because I think this year, 2023, is going to be absolutely special in so many ways. And I will also say the music lineup, special. I'm blamed for saying many times that this is my favorite lineup, but this is my favorite lineup ever. We have gone deeper cuts, way more kind of rising star, essence of music genre, the things we like to do, discovery, make every year feel special and unique. And so I believe we can honestly say you're going to come this year, you're going to fall in love all over again. And we'll say we told you so. Hopefully that's what we're doing. So with that, let's bring up one of the bands that we're going to have this year, Sprig of That.
Hi. Thanks so much for having us. Me here, Zale.
And you are?
I'm Isabel Dammann.
Yes.
And I play violin, fiddle in Sprig of That.
And so we started off saying Sprig of That is one of these, is an acoustic band. Mm-hmm. So the instruments are awesome. That's what I just to name the instruments. You've got fiddle, guitar. Well, that's most bands.
Kind of standard.
And then what's the third instrument?
The third one is Tabla, which is an Indian drum set.
Yes.
Yeah.
The talking drum.
Yeah, it's very fun. It's not often found in kind of more acoustic folk genres, but Chrissy Bergmark, our tabla player, has been playing for about 15 years, and she's really passionate about bringing tabla into places it usually isn't. And And it's a really fun. If you haven't checked out Tabla before, definitely listen to some. It's a very, very cool instrument.
So my kind of breaking down of how I describe you is, I mean, it's acoustic, but it's, and you, just to use your words, it was Midwest raised and globally inspired acoustic stew, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I just like somebody came with that, but I would say there's definitely a classical base in there.
Sure.
And did you guys go to school together? Is that how you met, or?
Yeah. So yeah, we are always trying to figure out how to describe our music, as many people are, because it has a lot of influences. I grew up playing classical violin, went to college for classical violin performance, and I met Ilan Blanc there. He was also studying classical guitar.
He's the guitar player.
Yeah.
Yep.
But he also grew up playing a lot of rock and then got into bluegrass in college, played in some bluegrass bands.
He is. I can hear that in his guitar playing. Like you can hear he is coming at it from like a guitar picker kind of like angle, which brings in another style. There's definitely some like acoustic finger picking closer to bluegrass actually.
Right.
But I also hear Irish.
Yeah. So I grew up doing classical, but then I kind of ventured into the Celtic fiddle world
heavy.
for sure.
I hear it heavily. So it's like,
yeah.
And then the tabla.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's Chrissy Bergman.
Bergmark.
Right?
Yeah.
Bergmark. Okay. Yeah.
And so she grew up doing classical percussion. She went to college for percussion and then got her master's in percussion as well. But then fell in love with the tabla in college and decided at one point, you know what, this is all I want to play anymore. So she just went really hardcore into tabla. That's pretty much the only instrument she plays regularly now. She goes back to India sometimes to study with her teacher there. And it's a very cool instrument. It's cool to play with because there's this low drum that kind of the pitch modulates. So it almost has like a melodic sort of sound to it, kind of a conversational sound. And then like the high drum is pitched kind of according to the song that we're playing. And I don't know, it's like rhythmic, but also melodic and also kind of the bass. And I don't know, it fills so many different roles.
Yeah. And so that's there's almost like a raga, like a Indian style of kind of trance stuff going on in there too. Like it adds this whole nother layer to the music. And she learned it where did you get, what was the name of the school?
So Ilan and I went to Lawrence University in Wisconsin.
Okay. Is that a music school?
It's like a liberal arts school and a music conservatory.
It's known for.
Yeah.
And where did you meet Chrissy?
And then we met Chrissy through a mutual friend of ours, who also went to school with us. But I had gone in 2015 to the Global Musician Workshop, hosted by the Silk Road Ensemble. Brought together musicians from all over the world. Very cool experience. The next year I told my friend to go, so he went and met Chrissy there, and they started a band. So then Sam introduced Chrissy to me and Ilan at school, and then Ilan and I both moved to Minneapolis after graduating, and Chrissy was living there. So then she reached out and was like, hey, do you guys want to jam sometime? And we're like, absolutely.
And that's like one of those weird instruments that like a lot of like music scenes, like if you talk like, bluegrass or old time, like I played trumpet, in high school. I switched to mandolin because I was like, okay, if I'm ever going to play anybody, any of these music, I need to play a stringed instrument.
Yeah.
Because I had, but tabla is kind of like that. I have this really semi-traumatic memory of going to Merlefest. I don't know if you've ever been to Merlefest.
I have not, but I've heard of it.
I mean, it wasn't traumatic. I learned a lot of old time fiddle tunes on trumpet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sure. I could play them. And so I was so excited when I went down there the first time. And I tried to get in a jam. Yeah. And quickly I ended up with the washboard, the accordion, and the spoons and the trumpet. And there was a washtub bass too, but it wasn't like able to fit into like the jams, right? Like they're not gonna have a trumpet player. So I can imagine a tabla is kind of like, it's awesome that you guys adopted that and thought that would be really cool in the music.
It was fun. And, Ilan and I were both kind of trying to get into the acoustic string band world more. And then Chrissy wanted to jam and we're like, yes, Absolutely. But, from the beginning, we haven't had, a kind of guiding genre to, that we're like coming from. We were
Yeah.
always pulling in different influences and trying to keep it as, I don't know, fresh and different as possible.
Yeah.
So it was fun. We, our first band rehearsal jam, we tore apart the fiddle tune Cluckle 10 for like 5 hours. And like, we're like, okay, what if we do this here? And like, we had a whiteboard and we're trying to
That's awesome.
drop beats and sections and like, I don't know, kind of created this whole arrangement. And that's still one of our favorite tunes to play.
Is there a recording of that?
There is. It's on our first EP. Yeah.
Is it? Okay. I have to go. We have to go find that.
It's fun. It's a, it's a good time.
Who writes in the band though? Because it does feel like there's a kind of like a equal weighting between guitar and
yeah, we
fiddle
all
and
write.
tabla.
I write mostly kind of fiddle tunes that I bring to the group, and then we sort of arrange them. Elon is almost done with his master's in composition, so he kind of has more of a composer's mind.
Right.
Coming, he's like, okay, here's like 8 pages. I wrote it out. I'm like, okay, let's go. And then Chrissy often, writes things down, but like kind of comes in with different ideas and rhythmic ideas, and we kind of workshop things. And so we all kind of have different approaches to writing, and but we all bring in different types of ideas too, I think.
Yeah, I think it's one of the more original acoustic sounds that I've heard in a long time.
Thank you.
And I love the way the story how we figured out that you guys existed.
Yeah.
So actually, I think to go back. You have been to Pickathon, right?
I've been to Pickathon, yeah, a couple times. I think in maybe college. My dad would go sometimes.
And who's your dad? We should say who's your dad?
So my dad's Peter Dammann. He's the artistic director of the Waterfront Blues Festival here in Portland,
which is
awesome.
Has many accolades, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it the oldest one west of the Mississippi, or the?
That sounds right to me.
I mean, he's been there since '94, right?
Right, which is the year I was born, and it went for a few years before that too. Yeah, it's a long-running festival, and he's been there for most of it.
Yeah. And it's one of the kind of core festivals in the area. So I go to it every year. It was awesome last year. Seeing War on Drugs War and Treaty. Sorry. And so that your dad was the artistic director of Blues Fest, and he brought you. And did you want to go, or did you?
Yeah, absolutely. And he's like, "Oh, I have a couple tickets. You want to come check out Pickathon?"
Okay. What'd you think?
Awesome. I mean, I love the whole vibe. Very like in the woods, in the farm, and like very just like community oriented. I went to like a environmental middle school, so I like loved the bring your own plate kind of thing.
Yeah, we were doing the no trash and the plate
and then we saw Lake Street Dive, which was amazing.
That
Still
was
one of my favorite
seminal
bands.
year of them. Like 2013, there was so much there. I think that was the year of Feist too, right? Wasn't they there?
Maybe.
And Devil Makes Three, and Marco Benevento. He played kind of a. We can't talk about it, but he played till I heard that he played till 4:30 in the morning on Sunday. And but yeah, I don't know how that happened, but I heard it was incredible. That was one of those years that was really awesome. And Lake Street Dive is a band that kind of came through Pickathon a couple years earlier, was tiny. Loved it so much that I think they came to celebrate Halloween, just hang out at the farm like the next year. But by 2013, that was like that kind of discovery rocket ship part where we bands just become bigger, and that's what we love, and they're too big for us now.
Sure.
Which is cool. We totally no issues, but that was kind of like that moment in time, kind of like so many bands kind of took off. It was cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you camp, or did you just go for the day?
I was just there for the day, but I have friends who have done the camping thing. That sounds like a blast.
Were you playing fiddle then?
I was
playing violin.
Yeah, I was playing for sure, and I was getting into fiddle stuff. I've done I did a smattering of fiddle stuff growing up.
I know it is funny. It's like violin, fiddle, but so you would say you played the violin.
Right. I guess it's kind of a stylistic
it is
difference, mostly.
I don't know. Celtic though, do they say violin or fiddle? Like
they say fiddle too.
They say fiddle.
Yeah.
So it's basically anything not classical.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of weird. I use those terms interchangeably, but they definitely have meaning to people. You can't say classical like, oh, I play the classical fiddle.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. Or, but that's cool. So who was your teacher here? I'm wondering if they're still around.
Yeah. Well, my first violin teacher was Rachel Lambert, and I actually play her violin. She passed away when I was in college. And then I studied with Clarice Atchison, who's in the Oregon Symphony.
Oh, wow.
And then, once I started getting into more fiddle stuff, I've learned a lot from like Hanukkah Castle, Scottish fiddler.
Oh, yeah. Kevin Burke's here, too.
Yeah, he is. I've never actually taken any lessons with him.
He played early on in Pickathon back when we were at Horning's Hideout. He's incredible.
Yeah.
He does do lessons, too.
Yeah, and he's awesome. So
where's the band at, would you say, in kind of its history right now? You guys formed it back in 2000.
2018.
18. Okay.
So we all met in Minneapolis, and we were there for 4.5 years together, playing a bunch, as much as we could. And then pandemic happened, so we weren't playing out as much. But at that point, we kind of decided we really wanted to focus in on writing and recording our first debut, like original full-length album. Because we had a EP, we had another project of pieces that composers wrote for us, but it was our first okay, we want to work on something that's like us and put it out into the world. So that was kind of the goal. So pandemic times were actually okay for us. It was great to have like a goal in mind,
Yeah, you probably just got something recording.
Yeah.
Didn't do much touring probably, did you?
But we were just writing and rehearsing a lot.
Have you been in the van and done the tour stuff yet?
Yeah, we just got back so we put out we did the album, and
which is called
Bloom.
Bloom, yep.
Came out February 10th.
It's awesome.
We're really excited about it.
On what label?
Not self-produced.
Self-produced. Awesome.
But we had a producer, Wes Corbett, who plays with the Sam Bush Band, banjo.
Oh yeah, famous. And
he's awesome.
And then the sound engineer,
Dave Cinco, who's has recorded all my favorite albums,
including
like Punch Brothers, the Melody of the Rhythm, which is like Bela Fleck, Edgar Meyer, and Zakir Hussain on tabla,
which are very much. I hear those influences, and it was in Nashville, probably, right?
It was in Nashville Sound Emporium.
Oh, incredible!
Studios, yeah.
That must have been so fun.
So cool. That was in December 2021. So we recorded that and just finally released it in February. It's been a big thing for us.
It's huge to do all that.
Yeah, and then we just did a Midwest tour last month, and then did a handful of shows in Colorado, and then we're coming out west in June. So
that's cool. Well, van life is ahead of you.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, I really hope you guys, kind of that arc of van life, I think Pickathon hopefully is going to be one of those amazing things that really bumps and where you guys are at. It can be that thing where a lot of folks go, oh my God, that was incredible. I never thought I liked tabla in my acoustic music. Because I think if you ask many people, do you want to see this band? They would be like, oh, I'm not so sure of tabla. But most people at Pickathon don't care, right? They're just like, if it's good, it's good. And so kind of going all the way back, you guys, we get a lot of submissions a lot of times. And we'll talk about how we get in bands in the future. But you guys came to us through one of our booking agent who got an email from your dad saying you had been and I'll tell you, we get thousands of those. And we try to needle drop, and just in general, it's really nice. And we were trying to be respectful. But the minute we put you guys on, we were like, oh my God, what the hell is this? We watched the video because we've been watching live videos for this year. We've been very faithful. Okay, the record's one thing, but can they do it live?
Yeah.
So we've been pretty, faithful. Nicholas Harris, who's our booking agent, has always been kind of focused on live. And it's really changed us this year because we never really did that. But we put you were recording, I don't remember exactly which song it was. Probably it started with a K, I think.
Oh, Kiranaka.
Yeah, Kiranaka. And instantly, me and Ryan and Nicholas, we were the only ones there. We were like, yeah. And that rarely happens. I just can't tell you how awesome to and then to know you guys are your connection to Portland and to us. And it just felt really cool, like a cool part of having you guys at the festival this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I mean, that means so much.
Well, we're
it's
huge
like a
fans.
Dream come true.
That's awesome. Can we hear you just play a little bit of how you would kind of play on your album?
Sure. Yeah, I could play a little. I'll play kind of the fiddle tune portion of a Sprig tune called "On the Rocks" that I wrote. I like to say it's my ode to two of my favorite things: whiskey and geology.
Ooh, I'm on board. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And it's Isabel, it's been super pleasure to have you. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me on this podcast and Pickathon.
We will see you this summer. We'll see everyone. Thanks, everyone. This is the end of episode 3. We'll be back for episode 4 next week.
This podcast is produced by Zale Schoenborn, Tanner McAuliffe, and Evan Throckmorton. Our artwork is by Travis Bone, and additional support by Ryan Stiles. The music you heard in this episode was by our guest of honor, Sprig of That. The songs included were Kiranaka, Adalet, and the one writing us out right now, River Song. A big thanks to the whole Pickathon family, and like Zale said, we'll catch you all next week.